Innovation is when an invention or an idea is commercialized. In today's day and time, for a company to survive and grow, it has to be innovative. The innovation doesn't have to be a novel one, it could simply be an upgrade to the existing way of doing things. To help companies know how innovative they are, an innovation audit framework was designed. The work of Schumpeter, Clayton Christensen, and Rosabeth M. Cantor are used to build this model. As you can see, the audit framework consists of three axes. On the vertical axis, we have types of innovation. The guiding principles of Schumpeter are used to elaborate and develop these parameters. Under the types of innovation, in the book Theory of Economic Development, Joseph Schumpeter classifies innovation into 5 types. The first one is product innovation. This is the introduction of a new good that the consumers are not yet familiar with, or the introduction of a new quality of a good. The second type is process innovation. This includes the introduction of a new method of production that has not been tested in the industry. The third type is business model innovation, which includes opening of new markets where the market is the one that had not been represented by the industry. The fourth type is the new sources of supply. This involves acquiring new sources of supply of raw materials or of semi-finished goods, irrespective whether the source already existed or is created for the first time. The last and final one is mergers and divestments. This is the introduction of new organization structure, for example, creation or breaking of monopoly positions.
The second axis that we are going to talk about is nature of innovation. In his seminal work, The Innovator's Dilemma, Clayton Christensen mentions 3 forms of innovation. First is disruptive innovation, which converts a high-end product into a more affordable and accessible product. It leads to economic growth and generates job opportunities for people as the need for labor force increases due to increase in the demand for the product. The next is sustaining innovation. This is the process of making good products or service better. This is important for the organizations because otherwise their margins will decline. Generally, these innovations neither create growth nor they generate jobs. They generate new products but not new buyers or new economies. The third and the last is the efficiency innovation. The purpose of efficiency innovation is to do more with less. If an organization is not efficient, it will suffer. This form of innovation eliminates the jobs but creates a huge amount of free cash flows that can be used to fund the next generation of disruptive innovations.
So I am going to explain about the locus of innovation. The locus of innovation's concept was given by Rosabeth Cantor, and she basically gave there are 4 places where innovation can take place. One is the organization. As we know, there are many big organizations like Apple, Alphabet, which have taken a lot of initiatives in bringing about disruptive technologies. So that is one place where innovation can take place. Now the other one is projects. Now increasingly organizations have also shifted to project-based innovation. Now the advantage of the project-based innovation is that it helps these organizations to distinguish between the length of the breadth. Now what does that mean is that the breadth basically defines where the number of external sources which are helping in the process of innovation. Now say for example, when we talk about say like a new innovation which is an immature innovation, then in such a case the number of external collaborators would be less, whereas in case of an incremental innovation the number of external collaborators would be more. So what project innovation does is that it helps to distinguish between these two. And the second is small groups and teams. Now the advantage of that is that within the small groups there is better trusting relationship that can be established, and out of these relationships better and new ideas can be generated. Now for new ideas to come up, a lot of debate and deliberations have to take place between people. Now that can be worked out well in a smaller group rather than in a larger group. The fourth is the business ecosystem. What a business ecosystem means is basically a set of businesses which are involved in similar activities and which is distinct to the others. For example, example of a business ecosystem would be a mobility based ecosystem which consists of the mobility providers like Uber, Ola, Lyft, etc. So the innovation that takes place in these ecosystems can be called as as business ecosystem innovation.
So now we'll try to explain this framework with certain real life examples. The first one is mini mills. The steel industry in USA in 20th century was very much dominated by the integrated steel mills. But these mini mills somehow found a way to produce metals from manufacturing units and cars, which was 20% cheaper than what integrated mills could produce. But the quality was poorer, so it was used only in rebar business and not for cars. So integrated mills, what they did was they started moving to the higher margin products and started leaving the rebar business because it was a low margin business. Mini mills came in the industry for producing rebar, more and more rebar, and when the last integrated mill finally left the rebar business, the price of rebar shot down by 20%. So this was the disruptive innovation that mini mills came up with.
Netflix is an example of disruptive innovation. So earlier the consumers used to either rent out DVDs or just watch whatever comes on the cable television. But now Netflix disrupted this industry by providing a subscription-based over-the-top media channel. And by this, now consumers can easily watch whatever content they want to and whenever they want to. Also, to keep the consumers highly engaged, Netflix started providing its own content which was exclusive to its own platform and not available on other channels. And this is how it disrupted this entire industry and provided consumers with a much quality content.
So talking about Uber now. So Uber has transformed mobility across the globe through its shared economy model that is completely asset light. It is taking the leverage of technological and data platform in order to provide its consumers safe and reliable rides. With over 15 million trips that are completed every day, it is making sure the efficient use of resources with the help of technology. Its locus of innovation lies in its endeavors to provide its consumers various different offerings targeting different customers through UberX, ride sharing, UberXL.
Another example for this framework is IKEA. IKEA is very well known for its DIY, that is do-it-yourself strategy. This strategy helps IKEA to reduce costs on assembly as well as storage of the products. This ultimately leads to storage of more products in their outlets. This finally leads to reasonable pricing for the consumers. Also, IKEA's flat packaging innovation helps consumers to easily transfer goods from outlets to their homes. All this leads to reduction in employee cost for IKEA, and it makes furniture affordable for all the consumers, and it frees up capital for IKEA.
Now, talking about Patagonia, which is a great example for a company whose nature of innovation is efficiency, type of innovation is process, and the locus of innovation is project. So company has recently revamped its mission statements to "We are in the business to save our home planet" from the earlier statement of "Build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, and use business to inspire and implement solutions to environmental crisis." It witnessed a complete overhaul in its operations. It focused on more eco-friendly alternatives for the apparel industry and came up with products that are reliable, durable, thus minimizing the environmental harm. Its innovation enabled it to increase its revenue by more than 40%. And it's really boasts about its initiatives like apparel repair facility.
Talking about Apple now, as a global leader of innovation, Apple has always focused to develop and design its own technology rather than buying those hardwares and softwares just like its competitor do. It has been also designing its own chips so that the chips are specifically optimizing the performance of Apple operating system. Apple is known for redefining the product category for its consumers, starting from iTunes, iPads, AirPods, to its venturing into augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and HomePod, its intelligent speaker. So the company is known for its technological innovation that is sustained through the time period and its consumers, and that is the nature of innovation of Apple.
Zara has entirely innovated the fashion industry. It is a perfect example of a sustainable innovation. and it has become a leader in the fast fashion industry now. So the major competitive advantage that Zara has is its supply chain. So whenever a new product comes into the line or new trend comes into its operations, it gets available on Zara stores in nearly 1 to 2 weeks. However, in other retail stores, it gets provided in near to 1 month. And this is how it has leveraged its supply chain. Also, due to Zara, the other players in this industry have been now very peculiar about catering to the changes in taste and preference of the consumers.
So next, talking about P&G, which is a great example for a company with nature of innovation being efficiency, for the type of innovation being management, and for the locus of innovation being business ecosystem. P&G has focused on creating and sustaining innovation as a part of its culture through its program called Connect and Develop, in short C+D program, which enables access to outside information and manage ideas from interception till execution. It has focused on creating new markets with breakthrough innovations, which can be seen easily by its expenditure of nearly 2 billion annually in R&D, roughly 50% more than its closest competitors, and more than most of the competitors combined. Its investment in R&D is clearly visible through the disruptive innovation in many of its powerful brands including Tide, Crest, Pampers and others.
Marico's parachute oil is an example of marketing and design innovation. So earlier, parachute oil used to come in tins, but that was very inconvenient to store. And so the parachute oil's researching team proposed this idea to the dealers that they come out with plastic bottles because that is cheaper and also convenient to store. But the dealers denied it, saying that earlier also plastic bottles were used to store parachute oil, but then that was an easy target for the rats, as well as it was spilling over the oil droplets. But then that is why this idea was refused. But then researchers again came up with another idea of round plastic bottles. So that's why it was very convenient to store. Secondly, it was not an easy target of rats because it was round and it made gripping for the rats difficult. And thirdly, there was no leakage or no droplets of oil spilling out of the bottle. This is how parachute oil innovated this packaging idea, and later on many coconut oil companies started using such a technique of packaging.
So talking about Amazon Web Services now, AWS has completely changed the dynamics of how IT operates in companies. In an endeavor to convert its excess and underutilized sources into a source of income, it has changed the game of how IT is actually an important function, wherein company used to invest in IT as a capital expenditure and now it is being transformed into an operational expenditure. Its competitors like Netflix heavily rely on Amazon Web Services, and there has been a completely reliance by other companies as well, for example Facebook, LinkedIn, ESPN, and that is how the efficiency of resources has been the nature of innovation for Amazon Web Services.